when a lonely alien technician is ordered to erase humanity's last traces from a dying space station. A forgotten cup of coffee and a chance encounter with a stubborn human janitor sparks a journey that reminds everyone what it means to be alive. Asterisk Argus Station floats abandoned on the edge of the galaxy. Most humans are gone, either evacuated, reassigned, or lost. Left behind is an alien technician, Fero, ordered by the cold bureaucracy of the Galactic Concord to sanitize the place. He encounters Maddy Lin, an old human janitor who refuses to leave, guarding her last cup of coffee. What begins as a routine cleanup becomes a confrontation with memory, meaning, and what humans do best, turning endings into beginnings. Asterisk Argus. Station was dying, but no one told Fero the van that it would smell like this. He floated down the empty corridor, thick digits wrapped around the handle of his vacuum canister. The air recyclers still ran, humming the low song of all dying machines, but now they seemed to echo. The metal skin of the station creaking and groaning as if remembering a better time. It was the scent that bothered him, not the sterile bite of ozone or the copper tang of leaking pipes, but the lingering warmth of something human. Coffee, they called it. Fero hated how it made his antennae twitch. He blinked, cycled through the checklists. Directive. Decommission Argus Station. Remove all organic traces. Recycle all waste. No exceptions. He could recite it in his sleep if he slept. He'd been told humans were sentimental. Clingy, even, about their things. But he hadn't expected to feel their absence, like static in the air. Room 114. The door slid open. A human, gray-haired, thin, stood with her back to him. She wore an orange janitor's jumpsuit, scuffed and stained. On the table sat a battered metal mug, steam curling from its mouth. Fero stopped. He knew all remaining humans were supposed to be gone. The evacuation had been 2 cycles ago. His appendage hesitated over the datapad. The woman turned, eyes sharp beneath bushy eyebrows. "You're early?" she said, voice gravelly but strong. I'm not early," Fero replied. He double-checked. Decommission protocol began 2 cycles ago. "You were expected to depart," she snorted. "No one ever cleans up after themselves. Figured I'd stay till the end." She picked up the mug, blew on the steam, and sipped. Her hands were steady. Fero flicked through his orders. No exceptions. He was supposed to remove all human waste. He eyed the mug. Technically, it counted. The human, Maddy, if his records were right, noticed his gaze. She grinned. A flash of white teeth. "You ever try this stuff?" Fero's mouthparts clicked. "It is not compatible with von physiology." She set the mug down with a soft clink. "Shame. It's the little things that make life worth living." He stared. Most species found humans odd, even alarming, in their stubborn attachment to rituals. But in this silent station, with its dying hum, Fero realized he'd rather listen to a human talk about coffee than the endless echo of empty halls. "Why are you still here?" He asked Dot. She shrugged. "Someone's got to sweep up the dust. And say goodbye. Places like this don't get a funeral, but they should." He didn't know what to say. The manual said nothing about funerals. A silence stretched. The coffee steamed. "You could help," Maddy said, "if you want. Or just sit a while." "We've got time." Fero hesitated. He was an obedient worker, efficient, never late. But something about the old woman's invitation felt right. He set down his vacuum canister, awkward in the cramped room, and sat across from her. Dot. The mug sat between them, a bridge of warmth in a cold station. Fero watched Maddy sip her coffee. The mug nestled in her wrinkled hands like something precious. Around them, the room was cluttered with the last stubborn signs of human life, old photos taped to the wall. A lopsided calendar. A broom propped against the far corner. He glanced at his checklist again. Sanitize. Remove. Erase. The words looked cold now. "You know, I used to hate this place," Maddy said, breaking the silence. "Back when it was full of people. Too noisy. Too many leaks." They always called me for clogs in the mess hall or jams in the airlock. I wanted to quit 100 times. Why didn't you? Fero asked, curiosity overcoming protocol. She shrugged. Because one day, I realized all that mess meant something. It meant life. People laughed, fought, spilled coffee. You could hear music from the hydroponics bay on Fridays. Even the arguments meant people cared. There's nothing sadder than a place with no noise at all. Fero tried to picture it. His homeworld was efficient, quiet, and clean. Order was prized above all, but suddenly that seemed lonely. He tried to explain. The Van don't value clutter or mess. We prize order, predictability. Maddy smiled, a little sad. Order's nice, but life's not tidy. You need a little chaos to feel alive. Humans are like that messy, stubborn, but we make things matter. She reached for a photo taped to the wall. This was the crew 3 years ago. Half are off to bigger things. A few, her voice caught. A few are gone for good. But we remembered each other. Fero stared at the photo. Faces, some smiling, some awkward, frozen in time. It struck him that these small memories, coffee, photos, music were humanity's real legacy. Not the machinery or wires dot that come on Fero's wrist blinked. Decommission incomplete. Human presence detected. Immediate removal required dot he ignored it. For the first time he wanted to listen instead of obey. Maddy noticed his distraction. You got somewhere to be, Bugman? He blinked. No, not really. She laughed, rich and warm. Good. Then help me with this last sweep. We'll do it human style. Fero picked up the broom. Awkward at first, he followed her instructions. Sweep, dust, gather what mattered. The task became a ritual, almost sacred. As they worked, Maddy told stories about the first time she tasted coffee, her favorite, prank involving hot sauce and an unlucky commander, the day she saved the station from an overflowing recycler. Fero found himself smiling, mandibles twitching in what, for his species, was laughter. Hours passed. The room grew cleaner, but Maddy kept small mementos photos. A faded plant, the mug. You know what this is? She asked, holding up the mug. Proof that humans never leave without leaving something behind. Fero nodded, understanding blooming. Maybe that was why the scent lingered, the smell of life refusing to be forgotten. The next day, Fero returned to Maddy's room, his checklist forgotten. He found her in the corridor, muttering at a stubborn panel. Damn things jammed again. You'd think with all this technology, doors would just work. He stepped forward. Allow me. Fero pried open the panel, adjusted a fuse, and the door hissed open. Maddy grinned. See? Sometimes you need 4 hands. They made their way to the observation deck, a vast window overlooking the swirling clouds of a blue gas giant. Maddy poured the last of her coffee into the battered mug. World's best view, she said quietly. You ever wonder why we built out here, Fero? He shook his head. Because we always want to see what's next, she said. Humans never stop searching. Even when things end, we look for a beginning. She pressed the mug into his hand. Here, keep this for me. A little mess for your people to remember us by. He hesitated. I am not supposed to keep organic waste. She winked. Then call it a relic, or a memory, or a promise. A voice boomed over the comm system. All remaining personnel report for final departure. Station lockdown in 30 cycles. Maddy's eyes turned soft. Well, looks like it's time. Fero found himself reluctant. Will you be all right? She smiled gently. I've been all right longer than you've been alive, kid. But promise me you'll remember this. Machines break, stations close, but stories last. She squeezed his hand. That's what humans do best. We turn even endings into stories. Fero clutched the mug, something unfamiliar stirring inside him. A hope, a need to hold on. Lockdown hour. Maddy's things were packed in a small bag, photos, plant, a few trinkets. She'd insisted Fero carry her bag. You've got the muscles, might as well use them. Together, they walked the empty corridors. Fero glanced at the mug, now tucked into his satchel. He felt different, lighter. He'd broken protocol, but gained something else. A story. A connection. At the docking bay, the last shuttle waited. Maddy turned to face him. I know you're not supposed to care, Fero, but you do now, don't you? He nodded. I do not wish for you to leave. She grinned. That's the trick, Bugman. If you care, you never truly lose someone. Tell my story. Pass on the coffee. That's how you keep humanity alive. She hugged him, awkward but warm. The shuttle doors closed. Fero watched as it vanished into the stars. The station fell silent. But it was a peaceful silence. Fero walked back to the observation deck. The mug sat beside him, steamless now, but full of memory. He began to write a message, a story, a memory of the last human on Argus Station, and the lesson she left behind. Months passed. Argus Station was cold and empty, but not forgotten. Fero stayed against orders. He sent reports, but they were more stories than data tallies of Maddy Lin. Her stubbornness, her laughter. Her coffee. Other Vaughn technicians arrived, curious about the strange tallies. Fero poured them hot water into the old mug. He showed them the faded photos, the small plant thriving against all odds. Word spread. The story of the human janitor and her alien friend traveled across the stars. Soon, other stations began keeping memory mugs, little tokens of humanity, messy, warm, impossible to forget. Years later, when Argus Station was finally dismantled, the mug was placed in a galactic museum, labeled "The Last Cup of Coffee," when endings became beginnings. Fero stood beside it, antennae twitching with pride. He remembered Maddy's words, "If you care, you never truly lose someone." And in that moment, he knew that the real legacy of humanity wasn't technology, or power, or conquest. It was the simple, stubborn, beautiful need to be remembered and to turn every ending into a new beginning. The end asterisk.